Hi everyone, this is KnifeFighter22 here. I hope you guys are all well, and welcome to this very special edition chess video. Today we're going to be talking about the psychology of chess. So what I mean by the psychology of chess is you're trying to outwit your opponent and get a psychological advantage over them in the game of chess. So in this video, I'm just going to give you some really good tips that you can use to scare your opponents psychologically, and which will help you win games of chess. Okay, so the first tip that I have for you is to be aggressive. Now, to be aggressive, I know it's not everybody's style, but if you can get to know an aggressive opening and to play it very, very well, then you will be at an advantage. So what I mean by this is playing very, very aggressive openings, such as the Queen's Gambit Vienna game or the King's Gambit, which I've got right here. These will be very, very aggressive. I'll put a link here to the tutorial on the King's Gambit. And basically, if you look at this from the black perspective, you can really see that it's going to intimidate him whether he's going to capture this pawn. So if you can get to learn this line well, as I said, I have just put a link to the tutorial which I did on this. So if you can play well and get into a really aggressive position like this, not only will you feel good because you know these kind of positions, but your opponent will be at a psychological disadvantage right from the start, because even though he is up a pawn, you have the better position. So the second tip which I have for you today is all about time. Now, this always depends on what kind of games you're playing. This doesn't necessarily apply to bullet games, but it will apply to pretty much anything up, 5-minute chess all the way up to 2 hours a game. So what my main tip for you on time is to be really, really fast, or to be quite quick for the first 8 or 10 moves. Hopefully you should know the openings for the first few moves, so it shouldn't be that difficult anyway. And then to slow down in the middle game. Slow down completely and really take the time to think of a really good attack. And this will intimidate your opponent because at the beginning they'll think, oh, he's really, really confident with this opening. So that's going to intimidate them. And then when you slow down in the middle game, he or she will think, oh, he's thinking, he's really trying to formulate a plan, and he's spending time doing that. And when you've got a better position and you're down on time and you're thinking and thinking about your plan, this is really going to intimidate your opponent because they don't know if you've got a really good attack or not, and they're going to try and see your attack, but they'll find it really, really hard to see because you're going into really deep analysis and trying to find that winning move to checkmate them in the middle game. Okay, so my third main tip for psychology of chess is to be sacrificial and be really aggressive in the middle game. So for example, I'm going to show you a quick example of this, of where you should sacrifice just a couple points of material which can really give you the upper hand and force your opponent to make some mistakes. One good example of this is where you start to really open up your opponent's king. So in this example, what we'll see is this bishop is going down to pin this knight, and white wants to liberate the knight. So what might white do is they might play their pawn up to g4 to go ahead and attack the bishop. And what I think is a really good idea is, instead of moving your bishop back to g6, is to go ahead and capture this pawn with your knight. And then you'll notice after pawn takes back and bishop takes, what you've done is you've completely opened up the white king, and you have 2 pawns in compensation for it. So I know that you've sacrificed the knight, but imagine this. Imagine playing this from the white perspective. You've got this queen down here, this rook and bishop are double attacking this knight. This bishop's going to be very strong once it's taken on an f3. The queen h1 mate is pretty deadly. You've also got this bishop here, which can always sacrifice. This f pawn is pinned, for example. It's going to be easy for you, black to double on the f-file. So you can see, even though black is down 1 pawn in material, or you could say he's up 2 pawns but down a minor piece, you can really see that black will have the advantage. So it's just these simple little tactics. If g4, this is always a very common theme. If my opponent does play this when I'm pinning their knight, when they castle, I always go ahead and sacrifice for 2 pawns. Okay, so my fourth main tip for you isn't really about actually playing on the chessboard, but what you should do is you should look at your opponent. So this is more about physical movement. So say, for example, you've done some of these attacks with the previous tips I've just used, and you've sat there, your opponent is really thinking about the move to defend, especially if you sort of know the rough position and you can calculate it. Just spend 2 or 3 seconds staring at your opponent every now and then. This will make them feel uneasy and hopefully lead them into a blunder, but this will really help you to win, and it will really make them feel as though you know what you're doing, and they really haven't got anything to prevent this. Also, if you make a really aggressive move, this is another really good tip, is to slam your piece down on the table. Not so hard that the whole table shakes and all the pieces fall off, but just that little bit harder, especially if it's wood. Just nice big slam down on the table, and it will really take your opponent out of their comfort zone, because it will perk them back up and they'll be like, oh, he's made this really aggressive move. I need to start thinking now, I'm in trouble. Okay, so my fifth and final tip for you is to not accept draws. Now, I don't mean under all circumstances. If you're down 10 points in material and someone offers you a draw, yes, go ahead and accept it. If you have 30 seconds on the clock and your opponent has 10 minutes, yes, go ahead and accept a draw. But what I mean is, if you're in these kind of positions, it really annoys me actually when grandmasters, they just go ahead and accept a draw to save 2 or 3 minutes of their life. Now, what is a really good tip is, if you say in this position you're playing white or black, it doesn't really matter. This position is pretty much completely equal. You know, grandmasters might say, okay, same colored bishops, same number of pawns, same number of pawn islands, kings are similarly activated, so they might go ahead and offer a draw. But what you might not know is, if your opponent goes and offers a draw and you decline it, this will actually give you the psychological upper hand, because they might think, oh, have they seen something in the position which I haven't? And what this will do is, especially if you play some moves fast and you be aggressive and you don't take their draw, they're most likely going to get intimidated, and that's when people start making mistakes. And then that's when you can go ahead, you can get your pass pawn, you can promote your queen, and you can go ahead and checkmate them in these kind of positions. Okay, so thanks very much for watching my video, everybody. I hope you found it very, very useful, the psychology of chess. Please go ahead and check out my other videos and subscribe, because I have many, many good videos on my channel, some of which aren't very well watched. Okay, so I wish you good luck playing chess, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye, everyone.